We were really talking about the joy of Christmas and how grand it is to have the children and really the joy of giving and how much fun it is to watch people open those packages that they're given and the joy of seeing that. And while we were talking, she said, you know, it really is a very joyous time, but I hate shopping. I have had shopping up to here. I told her that she really probably ought to do it on Amazon. That's what I did this year. This morning I got a call from Brazil. I'm sorry, I thought we needed that. The lead article in the December 5th, 2015 National Geographic is Mary, the most powerful woman in the world. The article notes that that at least 2,000 sightings have been reported of the Blessed Virgin since 40 AD. And according to the beliefs of the Roman Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodoxy, Oriental Orthodoxy, and some branches of Anglicanism, the Virgin Mary was bodily taken up into heaven at the end of her earthly life. That event is known as the Assumption. And I have to admit, I have a few doubts about the Assumption. And my skepticism is founded on the belief that all of the Gospels were written well after she would have died, and not a one of them do we find a word about the Assumption of St. Mary. And it would seem that the Gospel writers would have found a place to stick that in somewhere. In addition, as you know, she was married to Joseph, and she had other children. So I also have some questions about the continued use of the term virgin, unless it's an honorary, which it may well be in this case. However, even with my skepticism over some parts of the legend, after having been to Knock, Ireland, one of the sites of her visitation, I will tell you that it was an incredible place. It was very spiritual and very, very special. And those people with whom I have spoken that had been to other sighting sites say the very same thing about those. Praying for the Blessed Mother's intercession and being devoted to her is a global phenomenon. The notion of Mary as intercessor with Jesus began with the miracle of the wine at the wedding in Cana of Galilee. And it has grown from that into what it is today. At the Third Ecumenical Council, St. Mary was officially named the Theotokos, the God-bearer. And since that time, no other woman has been exalted as has Mary. She is the universal symbol of motherly love, maternal love, and of suffering and of sacrifice. Pope Francis, when asked what Mary meant to him, once answered, "She is my mama." When her appearances are most often occur, they're to children, usually the very poor, to the disenfranchised, to the downtrodden, and those who are displaced by war. And those who give accounts of her appearing to them and talking to them can seldom be shaken from that belief. It was in 431 AD that the Council of Ephesus affirmed Mary as truly the Mother of God because, according to the flesh, she gave birth to Jesus, who was truly God from the moment of his conception. The words they used to affirm this truth are, "We confess then, our Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, perfect God and perfect man, Therefore we confess one Christ, one Son, one Lord. According to this understanding of the unconfused union, we confess the Holy Virgin to be the Mother of God, because God, the Word, took flesh and became man, and from his very conception united to himself the temple he took from her. 20 years later, in 451 AD, the Council of Chalcedon, it was affirmed that the motherhood of Mary was a truthful dogma and an official doctrine of the Holy Catholic Church. The Feast of the Mother of God then affirms that Mary was the mother of Jesus, who was both God and human. Now, we churchified folk tend to throw around the word incarnate in our speech and in our services like it was simply some kind of figure of speech. But on this night, I would like for us to truly ponder that word, especially in regard to both the miraculous gift and the incredible burden that it must have been for St. Mary. I'd ask that we just try to wrap our minds and our hearts around that word, and at least try to begin to grasp the absolutely awesome nature of what happened on that night in Bethlehem. It is true that St. Mary became a Jewish mother that night. But in doing so, the God of the universe became one of us. It is the absolute core truth of our faith that the creator of the universe became man. He became a part of his own creation. He became incarnate. He became incarnate. Meat, flesh, and blood, and bone, and seed. Us. When Mary said yes to God at the Annunciation, it was certainly a life-changing moment for her, but it was a change in the life of the whole world. We honor Mary, the Mother of God, for her courage, for her selflessness, for her faith, and for her devotion. We also treasure her as our mother. I can imagine she must have been frightened, certainly at the Annunciation, and probably at a great many other moments in her life. Some we see in the Bible. She was certainly frightened at the crucifixion, and she was certainly pained. Her burden was so onerous, so very onerous, but her trust in God gave her the strength to accept the role as mother of the divine person, Jesus. In today's gospel, Luke describes in simple and very beautiful prose a birth and the heavenly jubilation that occurred over this otherwise common and very most human of occurrences. Those were truly primitive surroundings. Yet that baby was and is God the Son. And that young woman is the Mother of God. That is the true mystery of the Incarnation. Jesus' first visitors were shepherds, a group of poor people who stood on the very bottom rung of the ladder in those days. They came to see and to worship the God-child who had come into the world for them, to save them, and liberate them and us and all of mankind. St. Mary, experiencing the wonders of God in her life, saw it all through the eyes of her faith. She did indeed have a great deal to ponder and try to understand. On that first Christmas, God really and truly became present among us. He didn't come as a white-bearded judge on a golden throne or dispensing some kind of judgment on good and came as a child, a simple and plain and ordinary baby born to peasants, a teen mom, and a husband who was not the biological father of that child. It happened in a town that no one here would have ever heard of had he not been born. Oh, to be sure, we're told that some really incredible things happened on the night he was born. An angel choir visited shepherds. A star appeared in the east. But the fact remains that God came to us in a very ordinary, a very human way. God came as a boy who would grow to be a man. St. Mary and St. Joseph were chosen to parent that child who would become a man who would teach humankind about love and life beyond this life, who would give his own life as a witness to the things he taught and as an atonement for sin and doubt, the sin and doubt that hides in each of us. I think that magazine's right. Mary is the most powerful woman in the world. And I think maybe the Holy Mother can be and is an intercessor even for the most lowly among us. Because she understands. She understands in a way that only the Holy Mother can. That Jesus became incarnate for us. God is made real, not in the spectacular, but in the things of everyday life. Not in the supernatural, but in the common. It's my job to remind us this evening that this good news of great joy is not only that a miraculous incarnation occurred, it is that a resurrection occurred as well. He whom we welcome within us today as a baby is also the risen Christ. He came as a baby, and he lived, and he was